everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here to another episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. And today we're doing a little bit of a mailbag episode. So over on the YouTube community tab on Sunday morning, I just kind of messaged you guys, give me some questions. It could be basketball related, it could be life related, anything that we're going to talk about for today. And you guys enjoyed one of these I did around the draft time, so I think it's going to be a fun off-season topic point where we could just hit on a bunch of different things. I don't think these are going to be weekly like these Sporkle quiz videos, but I definitely don't mind doing like 2 of these a month per se. So I think these can be something fun that we can continue to do. And you guys gave me some really good questions, so I think we got over 40 questions submitted on YouTube, so I really do apologize if I didn't get to yours. I hope that some of the questions I do answer gives a little bit of overlap to maybe your question that you left there, but hopefully if you kind of just keep replying that I can eventually get to yours, because it's kind of like ones that I'll just scroll through and I think look the best and stuff that doesn't really overlap whatsoever. So yeah, we just finished up a really fun NBA Summer League. I'm not sure if I'll do anything more regarding Summer League, but definitely I kind of want to talk about the prospects in general from it as a whole. So maybe I'll end up doing that as an episode this week. It could be Wednesday's episode, something like that. But we had a fun finale between the Sacramento Kings and the Charlotte Hornets. We ended up getting a close game out of it. I think just like the energy and the competitiveness we saw at the end, where Concanipple hits a 3, Isaac Jones hits a 3. And these teams were going back and forth, where the Hornets got off to a good lead at the start of the game, and then the Kings kind of worked their way back. It was a great summer league in general. I kind of regret not going this year. Something came up for me, and I really did plan it way too late. And I do regret it 100%. I told myself last year at this time I was definitely going in 2025, and I didn't. So I'm going to say the same thing about 2026. I know I got a couple weddings for friends in the month of July next summer, so I hope I'm able to work it out, but I definitely want to go to Summer League next year. So let's get here into the mailbag today, and the first one is going to come from Seth Sizzle here. He mentions, when looking at prospects internationally or at college, what traits do you look at most to determine if they're a good prospect or not? So I think right now, it's so different too when you're trying to evaluate guys that are playing at the collegiate level versus the international level, and maybe even within the collegiate level, if they're playing in the Mountain West or the American or some of the lower tier conferences, compared to somebody that's going up on a night-to-night basis against SEC teams or Big Ten teams as well. So I think when you're starting to look at prospects on the college state, I think obviously, first of all, you got to watch these guys. I think you really get a benefit being able to watch some of these guys in person. So I know it's kind of tough, like geographically, to do that, because now with the realignment, hey, you can actually watch somebody that's playing at Stanford play against Chapel or UNC at Chapel Hill, which is just still kind of wild. I would say though, like, if you do have a chance to watch these guys in person, I think it helps a lot. You get to kind of see their body language, how much of an effort they're giving on both ends of the floor. So I think we'll start at college here. What I like to do at the end of the year is I'll go through their game log. You could sort it even by game score on College Basketball Reference, or you could just kind of what looks the most appealing and the least appealing. I try to watch their best game statistically and their worst game statistically, because I think it's nice to get a blend of both games out there where you're going to see the highs and you're going to see the lows. But I think what is nice when you're watching the quote unquote worst statistical box score game of the year, how are they looking defensively? Are they always engaged? Do the shots just kind of look good? Are they getting to their spots? Are they moving well off screen? Are they creating separation? Because hey, somebody could go 3 of 4 from 3, but they do not look pretty whatsoever. Maybe there's a bang shot or two in there, and they're very maybe poor shots in terms of just selection and shot diet overall, but somebody could go 1 of 4 from 3 and they created immense separation. They created a ton of movement, like with their gravity off the ball, and teams are double teaming them maybe at the point of attack, or maybe it was just a couple in and outs, right? And it looked really good. And you know what? These are going to eventually get a fall. Or maybe it was just a half-court heave, right? Maybe it was something with the shot clock winding down and somebody tried to play iso ball at the top and their lead guard just kicked it to them with 1 second left and they had to chuck it up before the shot clock violation. So I think that tells a big story, is being able to see how they look on their best night and their worst night, especially on the worst night. Are they locked in defensively? Are they still diving for loose balls? How is their body language? Are they holding up? Are they okay shooting 2 of 12 from the field? And if they do have a couple turnovers, are they getting better throughout the game? How do they look in crunch time as well? So I would say, like, when you're watching the game, I think that's a good thing to follow. And it's pretty easy, right? You only have to watch 2 games. Like I said, maybe their best statistical game and their worst statistical game. But I think also, if you want to go into stats, I think like you can kind of average their stuff out to per 40 minutes out there, because some of these guys even like a Carter Bryant or Jace Richardson, at times at the start of the year, didn't really get to play a lot. They weren't playing in crunch time. They didn't have a ton of shot or opportunities on the offensive end of the floor. So I think you can kind of try to average everybody's stats out a little bit. I think you can look at their 3-point rate. Are they just willingness? Like, how's their willingness to shoot the ball out there? Is it just a small sample size? Because you can look at like Cody Williams' 3-point numbers when he was a freshman at Colorado in the 2024 season. He shot over 40% from three, but it wasn't on a lot of volume. I'd rather somebody shoot 37% from three on 6 attempts a night than 41% from three on 2.8 attempts a night, right? So I think that matters a lot. Obviously, you can look into true shooting a little bit. I think free throw percentage helps out a lot as well. One, are they getting to the line? Two, are they able to finish at the line? I had a higher grade on Isaiah Collier in the 24 class as well. I loved his ability to get to the free throw line, but I always limited my ranking on him because he wasn't the greatest free throw shooter in the world. So I'm like, okay, there's going to be a lot of points left on the table here because he's just not able to be consistent from the free throw line. And sometimes you can really see the trend if these guys are not great free throw shooters. They don't really end up becoming great 3-point shooters as well. I think just also looking at the forms of the jumper in college as well. I remember just watching like Leonard Miller at the G League night in the 23 draft, and the guy, I mean, his shot form is still pretty wonky today. And I always just like, you know what, maybe there isn't going to be much of a 3-point shooter because is it quick? Do they have a hitch? Can they do no dip threes? Do they have that in their arsenal as well? And I think looking at form helps out a lot. I mean, I just kind of watched Con Knipple and Reed Shepard. These guys, I thought like we're never going to miss at the NBA level. And I think that's also what I liked about Jared McCain's off-ball movement and 3-point shooting as well. I mean, the form was just so pretty out there. So I think really just looking at their body language, how does it look? I mean, it's kind of lazy, but aesthetically out there, does it look pretty? Does it look like it could be something that translates at the next level? Or is it something that takes way too slow of a release? Does it feel like it takes way too much effort to create just the bare minimum of separation? That was even something I didn't love about Matas Buzelis' game at the G League Ignite. Now, I'll get into the college and like other leagues as an example, but in the G League Ignite, I mean, it was a mess out there for that team, but he really struggled creating separation, but it was a team that didn't really have the greatest movement, the greatest spacing out there. And these guys were high school seniors less than a year ago. So I think for college, just kind of watch their best game, their worst game. If you're just trying to get into it a little bit, look at the underlying metrics, look at the turnover rate, their assist rate, look at their 3-point rate as well out there. And you can kind of get a good feel of what type of player they could be. Especially like Sion James, I loved him in this class too because he was a role player. He did all the little things you needed at Duke, and that's what he's going to be at the NBA level. I think it's really tough for somebody that's the guy in college to be a quote-unquote role player at the NBA level. For college, it's a little bit more volatile, and I'm still learning as well. Every league is so different out there. Some leagues are quicker. Some leagues prioritize more ball movement. Some leagues is just kind of hero ball. Like that's when I was watching Hansen Yang in the CBA. It's just like everybody wants to score over there. The defense is kind of non-existent at times, and that's what the knock on that league is specifically. But I think you can look at some of the top leagues out there, right? Like the French league, definitely the ACB in Europe as well. And I think the NBL is getting more and more competitive as well. And I'm really excited to watch like Kareem Lopez and Dash Daniels over there also. So I think it's for the international guys, it's tough, right? Because T-John Salon like Salon wasn't the greatest player at Gillette, but he had the intangibles, he had the body, he had somebody that was still kind of raw and new to the game that you think with a 3 to 4 development year track plan, he can be somebody that really turns out to be way better than some of these guys are 22, 23 coming out of college, right? So I think for international, you kind of have to figure out who they're playing as well, because they might be playing somebody well beneath them in terms of competition and how involved they're going to be on the offensive end of the floor. That was a long answer to the first question, but I think it's really exciting. And I'm constantly learning as well. When I was watching games back for the 22 or 23 draft, I'm just kind of honed in on one guy, but I think it's also nice to know the story of who they're playing, right? Like, do they have injuries on the defensive end of the floor? Are they one of the top defensive teams in the country? Or is this a team that's well beneath them and you're not really getting much out of that competition there? Because when you look at Yegor Demon's non-conference stats in the 2025 season, he wasn't playing great competition. It was like one of the easiest schedules out of conference. So, and then when conference play started, the efficiency ended up dropping. So it's something to definitely look at more, try to kind of get a full story of a game you're watching too beforehand as well. Next question comes from Rob Saw. He mentions that realistically, what is the ceiling of Bronny? And when LeBron retires, do you think he will be released or provided a contract by another team? Surely he will be picked up for at least monetary purposes, but what about for his actual abilities? So this is obviously a Bronny driven question. I think Bronny is also an intriguing prospect. I mean, hey, like him or hate him, like he's a good basketball player, and he's somebody that was a first round projected prospect throughout high school. And there's, I think, hype to his name that made him a top 10 prospect that was definitely overblown. I know him like Jonathan Gavoni's ESPN way too early mock. I forget exactly, but he was ranked like 10. And I'm pretty sure that was also based off his ability. And maybe there's a little bit of juice that like LeBron was only going to play with his son, like wherever the team that drafted him. So how high would he go in a draft? And that never ended up happening because Bronny suffered that the cardiac arrest early in his USC career. And then he struggled at USC. He wasn't good at USC, at least on the offensive end of the floor. But hey, he had the athleticism. He had the work ethic. He's got the lineage from LeBron, training him, working with him, teaching him, which, hey, some guys aren't going to get. And always in the draft, the 55th overall pick is a shot in the dark. And you could bring up the nepotism thing, and you're not wrong at all. He wouldn't get drafted if his name wasn't Bronny James. He probably would have non-declared for the NBA draft. He would have transferred to a different school or stayed another year at USC. And I think Bronny was NBA ready more than some guys. I remember tweeting out that he was more NBA ready than AJ Johnson when he got drafted, and I don't necessarily think that's wrong. I think they're very close to each other, and AJ Johnson impressed me a lot in his rookie year, but I do think Bronny has at least the athleticism defensively at the point of attack. I think he's quick getting over screens. Yes, there's still a size limitation for him guarding bigger dudes, but I think he holds his own on that end of the floor. And a big thing for Bronny will be the three-point shooting as well, because he's somebody that needs to be, I think, a good three-point shooter. He's never really going to be like an isolation guy. He's never going to be somebody that's step back jumpers at the NBA level. Now, we could see that on display in Summer League. But in limited sample, garbage time minutes, he shot 28% from three. And he had his moments in the G League for sure, like a lot of people do. Cam Spencer had, like a 50-point game in the G League last year. But I would say Bronny has been very impressive in the Summer League. You can make an argument he's been the best Laker, or at least the most consistent Laker, and he's been better than Dalton Connect. And he's also 3 to 4 years younger than Dalton Connect as well. I mean, I think the ceiling was always what we said pre-draft. I said, like, the absolute best is like 80% of the defense of 2022 Marcus Smart. That is like the absolute ceiling, the 100th percentile outcome. He reaches his full potential. He turns into a great, almost elite point of attack defender, somebody that can hold his own in the post as a smaller guy, but gets off screens and can be super active in the passing lanes, and he can use his athleticism, quickness, and overall just speed to get up and down the floor and be an impact transition player while also being a consistent three-point shooter. He's never going to be a maestro out of the pick and roll. He's never going to make cross-court passes, finding the weak side, the open man in the opposite corner, but he could be somebody that's a good catch and shoot three-point option. He's a good athlete enough where he can cut, slash a little bit, finish at the rim, off ball, and that's what he is. And he's extremely valuable, and Marcus Smart has made over $70 million in the NBA, or $80 million. He's got multiple contracts. He was just picked up by the Lakers, who could be a great mentor for Bronny. So I would say when LeBron retires, I mean, Bronny signed that 4-year contract with the Lakers. I would think because of LeBron, he's going to at least finish out that 4-year contract with the Lakers if LeBron did retire. Now, he could get traded. That's definitely a possibility. Now, I don't think a team's calling up trying to trade for Bronny unless it's Cleveland and there's some connection there. But I think he would maybe be an add-on into a trade. Maybe the Lakers were trading for a proven guy and it's a rebuilding team, and they're like, all right, we'll take Dalton Connect or Do Thero, and we'll also just take a flyer on Bronny James, right? Because there's some name value and monetization to that as well. But I do think Bronny, maybe he ends up being like a Deuce McBride. I don't think that's impossible. Now, I do think Deuce is a little bit more skilled with the ball in his hands, and I trust Deuce's shot a lot more than Bronny's, but I don't think there's a small chance. I think like there's a decent chance he can end up being like, I mean, if you watch Deuce McBride last year, good player for the Knicks, he could be like 80% of Deuce McBride last year for the Knicks at his peak, and that could be his floor. So he looks better as we get further and further out from the cardiac arrest. I think he would probably get picked up. Now, he could just be somebody that chills in the Summer League. That's a G League guy. It really depends how much he wants to play basketball, right? Like, is it worth it to Bronny that his dad's out of the league and he's just constantly like bouncing around on G League teams? Does he love the game that much? That's something I don't know. But I do think he's good enough to stick around in the NBA in some way, shape, or form, for as well as he has this athleticism and this upside right now. Okay, next one ends up coming from Jan Zor Rikvi, and he says in about 2 years, 2027 is coming. That is true. Who are the top 5 prospects from that class? So I've kind of started to look at the 2027 class. Now, I know there's a ton of like high school basketball circuits going on. There's the Adidas tournaments, there's been Peach Jam, there's been all of that. And I know some people that have kind of been more boots on the ground there, like more involved in it. I am starting to get more involved with high school basketball. I think I don't look too much into, so like I really won't dive super deep into this class until maybe post the college season of next year, because obviously like I'm starting to do some summer scouting for the 2026 draft class, and I'm watching a ton of returning guys like Phylon, Bennett Sturts, going into next year, Isaiah Evans, or even some guys that could have been in this year's draft class, like Nicolas Abdelas, who's going to Virginia Tech, or Sergio Delaria, who could be a first-round pick next year. So there's a lot that I'm watching over there. So ESPN's top 5 recruits, Tyron Stokes, who's coming out of California. You got Christian Collins, also California, Jordan Smith Jr. out of Fairfax, Virginia, Jason Crow out of California, and Caleb Holt out of Georgia. Now, Jonathan Gavoni of ESPN did recently kind of talk about and made an article how this is a draft that has a lot of skepticism right now, and there's could end up being quote-unquote another weak draft. Now, honestly, I can't really say this is going to be weaker than 2024, which was a lot weak. Like, so people call the 2020 draft very weak, and that draft has been very good. So I think the 2024 draft, we'll see. Like, we'll see the ceiling of Stephon Castle and Alex Sarr and Jared McCain and Khalil Ware and these guys over the course of time. For this class, though, we'll see. I'm not too familiar with the international class in 2027. I don't know, like, we'll see how like Kareem Lopez does in the next gen program over there in the NBL. We'll see how Sergio Delaria does this year, how Dash Daniels does this year, and some of those international guys as well. So we'll see. I think Tyron Stokes, what I've heard about him, what I've seen from him, like freakish athlete. He has struggled recently in the most recent EYBL tournament. But hey, we'll see what these guys are going to be at the collegiate level, right? Like high school matters so much in a way that even guys like Danny Ainge still loves like high school status. Like that's why he took the flyer on Jason Tatum. Well, not a flyer. I guess it was more so on Jaylen Brown, who had a lot of question marks coming out of Cal, but he always looked back. This guy was an absolute stud in high school. I'm going to take that over somebody that has at least a little bit more proven of a college record, but maybe that could also be a couple different circumstances. So I've heard that Tyron Stokes, and what I've seen from him, this guy can be the real deal. I think if you ranked him in the 2026 draft class, you're not taking him in the top 3 over AJ, Peterson, and Boozer for now. I think there is probably more upside in Nate Ament with his size and ball handling over Tyron Stokes right now. So I would say he's probably like the 5th or 6th guy in the class up. Christian Collins, we'll see how he could be offensively as a stretch 4. I mean, there could be a lot of upside in that game as well. Could be like Cooper Flagg type size coming out of high school. And then you have like Jordan Smith, Jason Crow. These guys are very quick, very agile. We'll see if they grow as well. Like these guys could end up becoming, like they're listed as 6'2", 6'3". They could become 6'7", 6'8", right? Like these guys can have crazy growth spurts, a la Nate Ament from a year ago. I like Brandon McCoy from what I've seen from him, and Dylan Mingo. I think this can be a good point guard class with Crow, Mingo, and McCoy. You have Jackson Richardson as well, who's going to be an intriguing prospect. You got Mika. I'm going to learn how to say his name properly, from Finland. He's probably the top international guy from this class. Caleb Gaskins, I think, is intriguing as well. You got Taj Ariza, who's the son of Trevor Ariza. You're going to have Alex Costanza, I think, to keep an eye on. Marcus Johnson to keep an eye on. Adam, I will learn how to say his name as well, from the Overtime Elite. Starts with an O. He's somebody that I've heard a lot of good things about. So I'm going to kind of dive deep into this class as well. In maybe later parts of the summer, I'll try. I got a couple long flights this summer, so probably try to grind a little bit here. There's not been a lot of commits. You have Jay-Sean Andrews, who's committed to Arkansas. You have Elijah Williams committed to Baylor. You got Marcus Johnson committed to Ohio State, but none of these guys are top 10 guys right now. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on some of these names. I would say just kind of follow the ESPN top 10, and then try to follow some of those EYBL circuits and high school circuits in the summer. But we're going to learn a lot more about these guys, I think, over the next few weeks. Next one comes from Colts Pacers here, and he says biggest plus and minuses of Miles Turner in Milwaukee. So I know a lot of, it looks like this is a Pacers fan. I mean, this is kind of with everybody. You lose a free agent, you're going to kind of get in denial. You're going to be like, you know what, we didn't really need him anyway. It's not worth it, this, and this. So I've talked about Miles Turner signing with the Bucks and leaving the Pacers a ton this offseason. I think it was a cheap move by ownership, not wanting to go into the luxury tax and keep the asset of Miles Turner. Now, you may think Miles Turner is overpaid, but basically what he ended up getting wasn't too much more than what Naz Reid got from Minnesota. Like, Naz Reid ended up getting 5 years, 125. Miles Turner got, 4 years, 106 from the Milwaukee Bucks. So I just want to double check those numbers. 4 years, 108. It's like in today's NBA, that's not too much money. It's 27 mil per year. It's 2 million more than Nas Reed. And yes, you could be like, Miles Turner was not great in the NBA finals. He was maybe our fifth or fourth best player. The defense wasn't great in the playoffs either. And we can go without his rim protection. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I've seen a lot of Pacers fans kind of cope and say that Jay Huff is basically going to be Miles Turner in a way next year, or 90% of Miles Turner. I think when we get to December, Pacers fans are really going to miss watching the reliability of Miles Turner at the center position. Now, Miles Turner has been relatively healthy over the last 2 years. He definitely had some injury concerns from like 21 to 23 and was a little bit more healthy earlier in his career. But for somebody that was basically always in trade rumors, has been there since 2015, $27 million is not breaking the bank in today's NBA with contract salaries. I think even if you regretted going into the luxury tax, which wouldn't really affect you too much if you decided, you know what, I want to pull the plug on this. I don't know what the amount of games, but we're 20 and 32, and it's January or early February. Let's trade Miles Turner. I think that's fine, but you can get assets in return. You can probably get an expiring contract, and you could have maybe traded Miles Turner to a team that has now 2031 or 2032 first round picks, 2033 first round picks to move. So I shame the Pacers ownership for not wanting to do that at least. Like, again, it's not, or like always, it's not my money, but you just had so much home gate revenue from the NBA Finals. And I know Halliburton, like his injury eliminated your chances of realistically competing for a title next year. But I look at what Toronto's doing. They're not a big market. I don't love the Jakob Poeltl extension, but at least they're keeping the asset on hand. And I think Miles Turner is a lot better of a player than Jakob Poeltl. So I know you could probably replace Miles Turner one day, but with the modern CBA, it's going to be tough. Does this make me think that they're going to end up paying Benedict Mathurin? I don't know. So I'm not sure for Colts Pacers question, does he want me to say biggest pluses and minus of Miles Turner in Milwaukee? Well, I guess in Milwaukee, he doesn't really care maybe about the Pacers anymore. I mean, I think they're going to be great defensively. Him and Giannis in the front court is going to help out their game a ton. I do think the Bucks roster, I mean, it's not the best right now. They do have a lot of depth, which is good for them, but the quality of depth is still to be seen, right? Like they picked up Cole Anthony in the buyout market. They brought back almost everybody this offseason: Portis, Trent, Kevin Porter Jr. They traded Pat Connaughton. They traded or Brook Lopez signed with the Clippers. They were basically the 12th ranked defense last year and the 11th ranked offense, and that was with some injuries. And I don't think the Bucks are a bad team. Now we'll see if like the stagnant development of some of these guys limits their ceiling next year, because I mentioned in the 2024 offseason, the Bucks didn't do a whole lot, right? Like Malik Beasley left to Detroit. They brought in Gary Trent Jr., brought in Taurean Prince, who they also brought back this offseason. And I said, all right, I don't love this Bucks offseason. Teams around them are getting better, and they kind of stayed the same. A lot of Bucks fans were like, Matt, what are you talking about? We got better by getting off of Malik Beasley's terrible defense, and we added Gary Trent, and we added Taurean Prince. But a lot of these guys on this team, I mean, kind of hit their ceiling in this league. Like, we kind of know what what Kyle Kuzma is. We know what Taurean Prince is. We know what Gary Trent Jr. is. We kind of know what AJ Green is at this point. I think Ryan Rollins could be an intriguing name next year. I thought he improved a ton. And he has a really cool story. Like, what was he, the 44th pick in the 22 draft from the Hawks? So I am interested about the depth in Milwaukee. I hated the Kyle Kuzma trade. I think Turner is going to be somebody that's going to get a lot of great looks. Playing it's kind of like the 4 offensively. He's a good 3-point shooter, and he can space the floor, because we know Giannis likes to operate now more out of the mid-range than the 3-point range when it comes to it. So I'm intrigued to see how it looks offensively. I think defensively they're going to be great. I think they can complement each other very well. They can be out there with maybe not the best defenders, Kyle Kuzma, Gary Trent Jr., Kevin Porter Jr., where they can complement those guys. And this could be the best defensive front court in the league, with the shot blocking ability, with the mobility for these big men. I know Miles Turner isn't great on the perimeter, but he's better than most centers out there. So I think the defense is going to be great. We'll just see how the offense can be consistently. I mean, if you're looking at this team, who would you bet is the second leading scorer next year for Milwaukee? It's probably going to be Miles Turner. Like, Giannis is going to get his 30-ish every night. I would say Miles Turner can average close to a career high. His career high in points per game is 18 in 23. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he averaged 19-ish. We'll see if the efficiency takes a hit with the volume going up, but he was an elite 3-point shooter. And at least for Milwaukee, it's an asset to have. Now, for Milwaukee, it's also coming with the caveat that you waived and stretched Damian Lillard. So the 27 you're paying for Miles Turner is also on top of the 22 million that Dame got bought out for. So I would say it's gonna be pricey for the next few years. I think they're gonna be great defensively. I think they can go as far as Giannis can stay healthy. There's an injury to Giannis next year. I'm scared about what can happen going forward. For them, for a team that doesn't own direct, like the direct option of their first round picks for a while. So we'll see. But I'm intrigued to say the least. And he'll be better next year than what Damian Lillard was going to be, who was not going to play for them. Next one comes here from Clear Out. This is number 5. What team do you think will have the most disappointing season next year? Examples being the Heat not making the playoffs or the Grizzlies falling to the 9th seed from, or maybe those are just examples in general. So what team do I think could have the most disappointing season? Now, that kind of goes in hands with injuries, right? Like you could say the Pelicans were maybe the most disappointing team last year, or Philadelphia, but those teams were banged up. I think a better case could be more so like I just had the team. Who am I blanking on right now? The Phoenix Suns, right? Like Kevin Durant had his injuries, but he wasn't this team wasn't decimated. Like they weren't a great team overall, right? So I think there could be, man, disappointing. That's just relative to expectations. That might not mean they're bad, but it's just like they have certain expectations and they may fall short. I think a team to keep an eye on is one that may be a hot take. I would say the Detroit Pistons. Now, the Pistons were great last year. They went 44-38. They were one of the best stories, and they played a very competitive series against the Knicks. I don't think they got better this offseason. I don't really think they got worse. I'm excited to watch Jaden Ivey again next year. I'm excited to watch Asar Thompson a year removed from the scary health scare he had a year ago, that he could be at full strength. Obviously, Cade Cunningham was one of the 15 best players in the league last year in the regular season, and now they have playoff experience. You have Ron Holland. Hopefully that could take a leap. Jalen Duren. I don't love the Duncan Robinson contract. Karis LeVert, we'll see how he could be efficiently. We're kind of waiting on the Malik Beasley situation right now. I think it's going to be tougher for them to be a top 6 seed. Who's to say they can't do it? They could definitely end up as a 3 seed, right? They definitely could, and they could win 50 games with JB Bickerstaff. But I wouldn't be totally shocked if they were a playing tournament team. And I think for the fans, after you just didn't have expectations for the 2025 team and they crushed those, they would be a little bit disappointed if this team went 43-39 and was the 8th seed. So I think on a disappointment factor, I'll keep an eye on the Pistons. As for the one team in the West, I'm looking at maybe San Antonio. I think they're going to be good, but I don't know how good they're going to be already. We're going to have to see how Wemby, who hasn't really had a major injury yet, he's had a little bit of minor injuries here and there, and then obviously the blood clot wasn't physically related on the basketball floor. So we'll see how he can end up looking in year number 3. Obviously Wemby could be an MVP winner next year for sure. How is Fox going to look with the floor spacing? Can Stephon Castle take a leap? Is there anything left in the tank for Jeremy Shohan as a building block? There's a lot of question marks for San Antonio, and I'm super excited to watch them next year. I'm super excited to watch Dylan Harper, Carter Bryant, Fox, and Wemby have a year together. They kept Vassell, they kept Johnson this offseason. So I'm excited to watch San Antonio, but I also would not be surprised if they were a play-in tournament team or they were kind of just get the 6th seed. I think people think they could end up being a 2 seed, and maybe they can. I haven't really figured out my standing predictions yet, but I'm going to keep an eye on Detroit and San Antonio. That could be disappointing just relative to expectations and not just bad teams overall. Peter Mitchell says, what will the Blazers' future look like with Damian Lillard on the team? Do you think they are playoff bound this season? Could Jrue Holiday and Dame's presence help or limit the young guys' growth? So I think it's going to be really tough for the Blazers to end up being a playoff team this year. I think they could be a play-in team this year, in the tournament, but not making it out. Now, injuries are going to affect this a lot. Who knows? A team could just be decimated and falls out of the picture. It could be Portland for all we know, and we never want to see that. But Portland was a great team in the second half last year. They went 36-46. They were the 11th seed, 12th seed. They were tied with Phoenix. I think there is a chance they could win 6 to 7 more games next year, and they could end up with a 41-41 record, a 42-40, 43-39, and they are around the 9th or the 10th seed in the loaded West. But when you're mapping it out right now, Thunder, Rockets, Nuggets, probably the Clippers, the Timberwolves, those are 5 teams that I feel very confident that I would say, unless there's a superstar massive injury, will be better than Portland next year. I'm also going to take my chances on the Lakers, the Warriors as well, so that's 8. I'm also going to take my chances on Dallas with their depth and with San Antonio, so that's about 10 teams right there that I think will be better, or 9 or 10 teams that will be better than Portland. So now it's tough for them to make it to the playing tournament if, one of those teams will probably have injuries and disappoint. I think they're in that Sacramento, New Orleans tier. I think there's a chance they're 9 or 10 next year, or 11. I would say that's their range, and I would feel comfortable that they're going to finish in that range. But we'll see. I'm very excited to watch them. I don't know how much of an impact Jan Hansen is going to give them next year. I think they're an intriguing team. The fact that like Dame, Grant, Jrue Holiday are going to make around like 50% of this team's cap space that don't really fit the timeline. Now, I love Dame returning. I think it's super cool. I'm super on board with it. He's not going to play it all this year. I think it's interesting who the starting point guard will be in 2027. You'd like to think it's going to be Scoot Henderson, and Dame making 8% of your cap a year off the Achilles recovery will probably not be the same exact player. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Dame averaged 16 points in 2027 and we're like, yeah, this is what Damian Lillard is now, but he could still be an elite three-point shooter. I think like Jrue, we're going to see a scale down offensive Jrue at one point. I think this year he'll still get his touches, but in 2027, where he still has 2 years left, he's not going to be averaging 15 points a night. Like, I wouldn't be totally shocked if Jrue and Dame were averaging under 22 points a night together in 2027, because Jrue is probably going to just still be this mainstay point of attack guy. But I think you can deploy a bunch of different lineups. Chauncey Billups is going to love Jrue Holiday out there. What is Jeremy Grant's future on this team, who still has about 3 years, $100 million remaining? So I think that's going to like be determined. Maybe he gets stretched and waived. Maybe he gets traded at one point. I would say that their lineup is probably going to be Scoot at the 1, Sharp at the 2. If I had a bet, just because he's getting paid a ton, I would say it's going to be Denny at the 3, Grant at the 4, Klingon at the 5. I wouldn't be insanely shocked if Kamara starts over Grant or Jrue starts over Grant. Because knowing Chauncey Billups, though, he kind of favors the older guys. He kind of favors the proven talent. It took forever for Scoot to be a consistent starter over Anthony Simons. It kind of took a little bit for Donovan Klingon to be a starter. So we'll see. But I'm excited about their future. They have the Bucks' future first-round picks as well. Denny's under a fantastic contract. It's still, I think it's the best contract in the league. Like, it's got, 3 years, 28 mil or 38 million remaining for his talent and production. That's less than 8% of the cap in 27 and 6.3% of the cap in 28. So it's phenomenal. I wouldn't be surprised by then in 28, there's like a reconstruction like Jaren Jackson Jr. this offseason. Number 7 comes from Razi. He says, how do you feel about the way the game is covered nowadays? Do you think the media is more of a help to the game or more of a problem? Big fan, man. Appreciate all the coverage you give about the game itself. Wish more people had your love for the game. Appreciate that, Razi. It does mean a lot. I think it's tough to just kind of look in a vacuum of NBA media. It's a completely different ballgame than what we grew up on. At least for me, I'm 25. I have the nostalgia of watching like ESPN every morning, Sports Center every morning, but in like words of nostalgia, right? Like everything that you think is the best probably happened when you were a kid. When you're at least around my age, everybody thinks the movies were better back then. The video games were better back then. The big game is covered better back then. Like, it's a lot of the old boomer takes, right? Like, the basketball was better in the 80s. It's because they were kids in the 80s. They were in their 20s. It was like the best time of their lives. Like, no shit, you think the game is the best then. You're going to have this fond memory. But if you actually watched the 87, I don't know, Knicks, right? And you watched all 82 games, you might be like, maybe this wasn't the best, right? If I watched, like, I think SpongeBob SquarePants, elite show from when I was a kid. Elite, maybe the goated show in my memory. But if I sat down and watched an episode of SpongeBob, something I probably haven't done in 10 years, I'm going to be like, all right, this is a little interesting. I don't know if it's the goated show now that I'm watching it again. But I'm probably never going to want to watch it again. I want to have that memory that SpongeBob is the GOAT. So I totally get people's nostalgia, and I don't think you want to ruin that for sure. I think the game could be covered a little bit better. I think it's tough because NBA's, like, NFL is in a great place where no matter what they talk about, they'll do well. NFL Live will talk about the Washington Commanders or the Detroit Lions, or even the Chiefs they talk about a lot. They're a small market. It's Kansas City. Like, nobody talks about the Kansas City Royals in baseball, given market size. So NFL, it's tough to compare to because they can literally talk about anything and it'll do well because it's the most interesting sport to the audience in the United States. For basketball, though, it's still kind of in a tweener place where, hey, I could talk about, like, what if they talked about the Detroit Lions, it would do a lot better than them talking about the Detroit Pistons most of the time, right? So I think it's tough, because that's a business and they need to do what's best for ESPN and get ratings. And I think that's what a lot of this media discourse comes down to. Now, I'm not a huge fan of some of the guys on the broadcast that I feel like are just lying to you. They don't watch college basketball. They don't watch random Tuesday night games between the Hornets and the Pistons, but they'll act like they do. as I have breaking news here that Chris Paul is returning to the Clippers on a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. This is pretty cool. It's funny that they're the oldest roster in the league and now it gets older, but hey, it's the last stand. I think it's pretty cool. I think the media can be more of a help, and I do think we're going to get better and better. I think there's a lot of great creators out there. There's a lot of great media analysts that still love the game. Like I think Tim Legler does a phenomenal job on ESPN. I thought Zach Lowe did a phenomenal job as well. And then they parted ways with Zach Lowe. I can't say I really enjoy First Take or the Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. Smith halftime report at all. I don't really watch them. I'm not even the biggest fan of Inside the NBA because I think if you watch it, you probably like the comedic aspect. I don't really enjoy it for that. I mean, I don't really watch halftime shows regardless, but you watch the way that the NFL halftime show is. You watch how MLB Network carries their sport. The NBA, I think, could take itself a little bit more seriously. And not everything has to be like a super hot take. And I think it's okay to break down more plays analytically or more plays on a X's and O's basis to sacrifice a little bit of the ratings. But hey, I'm not the one cashing the checks. I'm not the one that has my job on the line for a specific ratings number. But we're going into a different kind of way of media, right? Like it's not a lot of like old school, traditional Cablevision, Nielsen ratings. It's a lot of online social media engagement helps out a lot. And that also can generate TV deals, which generates massive contracts in the NBA, which also allows that, hey, not everything has to be about the Lakers and the Knicks, right? Like Giannis in Milwaukee, Jokic in Denver, Shea in OKC. These are small market teams compared to the major markets, and these are massive stars in the league, right? Like LeBron made Cleveland one of the most talked about teams ever because of the specific player. So I think we'll see what ends up happening. I think we'll see a little bit of a shift. I hope Amazon and NBC, like they have great cast on paper. I hope the networks don't get into their way too much and they can kind of display a great love for the game going forward. Number 8, a little bit more personal from Bed-Stuy. He says, are you still in the finance field or when did you leave it? If not, also any day for the wedding now. I've been, me and my fiance have been very, not slow. Like we're kind of figuring out guest lists, all that. Then you got to go to venues, which takes a little bit of time. And it's something we haven't really hopped on yet, but hopefully, I don't know, man. I know weddings got delayed a lot in COVID. So I think if you want a specific venue, especially on a Saturday and a nice time of the year, you're looking at like a 2-year wait. I don't know if that's going to end up happening, but I feel like that's what's going to end up. I'll probably expect the worst there. And no, non-finance anymore. I left JP Morgan in January of 2024, which is crazy. That was about a year and a half ago now. So I've been doing this full time for a year and a half. I would say 2025 has been better for me than 2024, which I think helps me out a lot, thinking I made a good decision. I always never really know how long I'm going to do this full time. I think if I had a path to get more of a traditional job tomorrow, I would definitely think about it. I think there's a lot of stress that comes with working on your own, and I'll see a video do bad, or I'll just see kind of like a slower time of the year, and I'm like, did I make the right decision? But I think for the highs, I mean, it's like the best job in the world, being able to talk about the NBA, and I'm very appreciative and grateful to be able to do that. So, yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to end up doing in 5 years. I would bet that I'm not doing this full time in 5 years, but who knows, right? Like I'm still 25, I'm still young, don't have a ton of responsibilities, but I think it is nice to have security. And it's always funny because I'll see like tweets that come up on my For You, and it's like, you got to be insane to leave a job right now in this market. I know it's bad. I know. But I took the chance. We'll see. I know there's always talks like jobs are going to be replaced by AI and all this and that. And I guess it's just kind of like a wait and see what the future is going to be in store. I don't know if I'll ever try to work for like a team itself because there's a lot of like conflict of interest. But I think if you're working on like the media side, analyst side, I think there's still an opening where I could still talk about the NBA, and not if you're somebody that does like a halftime show or like one of the local analysts than somebody that's like working specifically for a team, because they may not want you talking about other sports in general. Second to last one is, who will be the biggest riser this season and who will play in their first All-Star game? Could be multiple. So I have a couple guys that I think could be playing in their first All-Star game. I think one is Amen Thompson of the Houston Rockets. Now I know that they have Alperen Sengun and Kevin Durant and Fred VanVleet and a lot of scorers over there, but I think like Amen could still have a similar statistical aspect, and I think it's like the athleticism, the defense will wow you so much. It's kind of like Derek White being in those conversations a year ago. Like I think he could be in those talks, but I also think he's got a higher offensive ceiling to end up having a little bit more of a sexier offensive number to get voted in the All-Star game. I guess the biggest riser could be in also multiple tiers. Like, hey, there's a chance Wemby wins MVP, and that could be elevating himself into a new tier. I'm trying to think of like a young guy that I'm super high on yet. I haven't really made my breakout list for every team yet. I really like Matas in Chicago. I think like there's going to be so many opportunities and touches for him. And if they bring back Giddey, it will be great for his development. You could look at Indiana because of the opportunities now. Like maybe Pascal Siakam is somebody that averages 26 points a night with Turner and Halliburton gone. So he can elevate himself into a new tier as well. I think Paolo could be in MVP conversations if Orlando is a for real regular season team, and he will be the leading scorer on that squad. So I kind of like Paolo, and like I think Paolo and Amen Thompson as like guys that can actually be like biggest risers. Amen is a first time All-Star because Paolo did make an All-Star game already. So other first time All-Stars, I would just have to remember off the top of my head like who has made one, who hasn't. But yeah, like could there be a chance Benedict Mathurin gets in if he's like the second leading scorer on Indiana? Could Chet Holmgren get his first All-Star game as well? I think that's a possibility. Denny Avdia could get his first All-Star game in Portland. Jalen Green in Phoenix, like there is a chance he could score a lot, and if the efficiency can come back, hey, that could be appealing. And Phoenix is a semi-big market. I don't think Stephon Castle will be an All-Star this year. I don't think there's going to be any like Laker bump. Like Reeves could be in talks as well, because I don't think they really added anybody too big offensively that will scale back his role going forward. So I would say those guys as maybe potential first-time All-Stars. Maybe Josh Giddey does have that statistical output, or Kobe White this year as well for a Chicago team that may end up just being empty stats on a bad team. And lastly comes from Anthony, another personal one here. I like to sprinkle like one or two of these in. What are your hobbies, interests outside of sports? So a lot of my, I guess, hobbies and interests outside. Oh man, that's going to be tough. I don't have many. At points in my life, I was very big into like movies, music. But I'm trying to think like outside of sports. It's kind of sad because it's not many. Because like I love to snowboard. It's a sport. I like to golf when it's warm out. It's a sport. I like to work out, kind of a sport, or a physical activity. I like to run in a way, physical activity, playing basketball, physical activity. So it's not a lot. I would say a lot of my life I do like just kind of the competition of sports, the thrill of playing a sport. Trying to think if I had one. Like I've been learning like the NBA CPA this offseason, which is kind of about sports in a way. I like to read. I usually go back and forth between like a nonfiction book or a sports book, kind of back and forth. I do read. I don't read a lot of fiction, so it's a lot of nonfiction, like historical events, economic kind of like topics or global topics. The come up of a country or civilization, I think, are very interesting. And then I'm reading a sports book. Like I'm reading right now. It's called The Why Is Everything. I think it's by Michael Silver. It's about like the come up of like Sean McVay and Mike McDaniel and Mike LaFleur and who's the other one? Kyle Shanahan and all those guys that were once assistants for the Washington Redskins at the time, who were all became like head coaches, and Raheem Morris also. So that's what I'm reading right now. I like to read. I don't know. I like to just kind of hang out with friends, kind of go out, enjoy just outside stuff basically when it's warm here in the Northeast. It's kind of sad. I gotta maybe find a hobby or an interest. Like I do enjoy just kind of reading like financial news articles. Like it's still somewhat interesting to me, although it's not like my life that much anymore. I always told myself I wanted to learn still how to code. It's always like something that I prioritize for 3 weeks, and it gets pushed down to like the number 2 priority, 3, 4, 5, and then I end up not being consistent with it. So hey, if you have any recommendations for hobbies or interests that isn't too much involved in a physical activity or sports, I could use some new ideas. I don't know. And I prefer maybe not to watch. Like if it's a cool documentary, I'll watch. I like watching TV, but then when I get so into a show, I just like, it messes up my sleep schedule. So I haven't watched a show in a while. I watched Suits like a year and a half ago. Loved it. Binged it so quickly for my standards. So I finished that pretty quickly, but I don't know if I'll get into a show. But if you do have a good interest or hobby, would love to know in the comments. Definitely try to throw some things my way for sure. That's going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the Just Ballin' Podcast. If you did, I would appreciate you leaving a thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, really appreciate a rating and review as well. If you want to be part of these in the future, just subscribe to the YouTube, and it'll be on the community tab going forward. Thank you to everybody that asked the question, and I hope I was able to answer yours, or at least give somewhat of an idea if I didn't answer yours and I had some overlap with another one. So thank you guys all for watching and listening. Catch you guys later. Peace.